Brutal backlash against Meghan as more new testifiers expose her brazen lies over humbling visit. Dear Meghan, liar liar, your pants are on fire. I genuinely don't understand why her lies are so shallow and poorly researched. Meghan has completely ignored whole countries and cultures and stuck to some textbook stereotypes. Whoops, archetypes. She's so busy fabricating stories, she's getting caught out. Spotify must feel so helpless with this horrible podcast. Meghan Markle has relaunched her podcast after taking nearly a month hiatus while paying respects to Queen Elizabeth following her passing. During the podcast, Meghan discussed her childhood growing up in Los Angeles, which is known to be one of the most multicultural cities in the world. The Duchess of Sussex revealed a humbling experience as an adolescent, where she would regularly visit a Korean bathhouse with her mother, where they would both bathe in the nude. I was just thinking this and googling Korean spas in LA in the early 90s, which is when our saint was going through puberty. Who knows if she's telling the truth or not, but with her history of lies, I wouldn't be surprised if she did in fact lie. I've been in many spas, and not one had women strutting around naked. Sometimes there was one, I suppose, but she probably was ignored by us towel-wrapped folks, even in a sauna. One comment is exploding after a story comes out. I lived in LA in the 90s. There were only 2 spas in Koreatown at that time, to my knowledge. Beverly Hot Springs and Olympic Spa. Beverly Hot Springs for girls, the age limit is 14 and over. Olympic Spa is 18 and over. I never saw any kids at Beverly Hot Springs, or African Americans. Olympic Spa is female only. As usual, I think that Meghan is a liar. This is right up there with the Hillary Clinton story. Meghan doesn't hang out with people, she studies them, so she ends up with paper doll ideas of the people she meets. Clearly, she has nothing of value to say, except word salads and no credentials. Now her experience of Asian culture is going to a spa after claiming she was poor when growing up, despite the fact that she went only to expensive private schools and was able to travel abroad on vacation. When she recounts her experiences and the places she goes and the people she meets, the way she recounts it is very bizarre actually. It's incredibly sensory, but not in a narrative way. She makes lists of items she eats to make the experience sound richer, but it's not actually richer. In her podcast, she explained, it's a very humbling experience for a girl going through puberty because you enter a room with women from ages 9 to maybe 90, all walking around naked and waiting to get a body scrub on one of these tables that are all lined up in a row. All I wanted was a bathing suit, which are not allowed by the way. Once I was over that adolescent embarrassment, my mum and I, we'd go upstairs, we would sit in a room and we'd have a steaming bowl of the most delicious noodles. And we'd look around at all these other women. These beautiful Korean women who'd embraced the generational tradition of the jimjilbang and shared it with one another. The light-hearted aside came ahead of an interview with comedian Margaret Cho about her experiences with the representation of Asia within Hollywood. Now, that was a part of the Asian American culture that I knew, Meghan said. I hadn't known all the stigmas and archetypes that so many women of Asian descent specifically had faced until many, many years later. Those terms, those ideas, those stereotypes, they just weren't familiar to me, like the ones we see in so many movies and throughout pop culture. She added, movies like Austin Powers and Kill Bill, they presented these caricatures of women of Asian descent as oftentimes over-sexualized or aggressive.